Welcome back, everyone, to Vox Markets. My name is Paul Hill, and I'm delighted again to be able to speak to Jay Lecoque, Exec Chairman of SourceBio, a leading medical diagnostics and laboratory services firm. So welcome, Jay.
Thanks for having me back, Paul. It's always good to see you.
Yeah, well, big congrats on today's positive trading update. And perhaps we can start there and just walk through some of the divisions. It looks as though sort of you're seeing really strong growth in your cellular pathology operation. Do you want to start us through that one?
Well, there's a few things going on that we've kind of have been planning for. Number one, you've got a continued shortage of pathologists, which is really what started the growth of our cellular pathology business pre-COVID. Now you've got this bolus of cases coming back into the market at an unbelievable rate of growth that we are now expanding our capacity to manage. And then we've got LDPath, which is, has a very significant digital presence in the UK that we are expanding and actually bringing some of the source customers over to digital. So we've got some very good underlying things in place that are supporting the growth of the business. But yeah, cellular pathology is doing very well. We're not going to
just on that one, Jay. In terms of the when you said the bulbous or the of demand, you're talking about the elective procedures, are
Yes.
you there? Okay, and just on the progress of that. I mean, you knocked the ball out of the park last year in 2021 with a 45% growth just in your sort of like that division, and in terms of going forward, is the NHS making any inroads yet into the? Is it coming down, or is it still seeing a lot of sort of like additive demand, so that effectively you're going to see significant tailwind from elective procedures for a long period?
We believe the latter is that we're working very closely with some very large NHS trusts to help with this increased amount of casework that's coming through. And yeah, it isn't like it's going to come through and then it's gone. First of all, there's more cases every year anyway. So we see this as a long-term situation in this market, at least for the next few years, until they really cut back on this backlog. I think I read some report that said it's going to be 4 or 5 years before that backlog is completely reduced. And from what we're seeing is some of the NHS trusts are just completely overwhelmed. And, I won't get into one, but we did do some very good work with one large NHS trust that just handed their entire pathology business over to us to manage because they were just too inundated with the casework. So that's the kind of thing we're doing now with not only NHS trusts, but also private hospitals.
Yeah, I mean, I think the latest figures I saw were over 6 million of procedures which need to be done just in the UK, and I think they were sort of warning that actually ultimately next year it could go above 10 million. So I think you guys are going to be pretty busy. But now can you just talk through the sort of the LDPath sort of integration from that? Because obviously you bought that at the start of the year for what, 18.5 million pounds, and again it was sort of more of a digital platform, I think, that but you sort of like now approximately doubling the size of your cellular pathology operation just through that deal.
We are, and I think the other thing that's important is that they did have a very solid digital offering. We did too. Theirs was better. I don't have a problem admitting that. And we have now put 2 scanners in Nottingham, and we're moving a lot of our business on direct scan. So we are moving the whole market to scanning, and we believe, I mean, from my perspective, and I don't want to go out on a limb, but the NHS is just going to have to start understanding the importance of digital, the throughput. I mean, the benefits of getting rid of all the slides, the turnaround time, the patient care is just much, much better. And so we really want to work with them to try to move, significant trusts over to digital as quickly as possible.
And what are the synergies you're already seeing? How's the integration gone so far?
The integration is going great. They had just put together a lab in Chichester right during the end of the deal. And while they could have done it very well on a smaller scale, we took our operational people, put them in charge of Chichester. So we're building out that lab with much more capacity than they may have been able to do on their own. On the digital side, we're using their side to help us explore and expand our digital offering. So the integration's going great. It's ahead of plan. Very good team of people, and everybody. We're taking the best of the best is what we said we were going to do, and we're doing that.
And in terms of that, if you're going to see increased demand considerably, I don't know, it's very strong sort of double digit for the next 3 or 4 years. I mean, what's the sort of plan for increasing capacity, or is it because of the digital play? You're going to, you improve your internal throughput and your productivity, and therefore that'll you'll be able to get more from your existing platform as well as adding on additional sort of like capacity.
That's a great question. It's both. Digital is definitely going to be a part of increased capacity, but the other benefit, I would say, of the former COVID business is we've got, significant lab space that we're repurposing to grow the cellular pathology business into. So we're buying new kit, adding new staff. So we've got the capacity, or the platform for capacity there. We are now in the process of building that out, and we're keeping pace. But we want to double, triple the size of the capacity. I mean, it's nice we get up 50%. We want to get it. I want to double, triple it soon.
And you've talked about obviously the improvement in throughput and the productivity side. Now, I know when we chatted last time, you mentioned about the potential of putting sort of AI, overlaying that onto your service. So you're really then going to improve the efficacy and the accuracy of the diagnosis of those slides, etc., of the the samples, for the patient. You talk through that one and sort of timescales and what do you see?
Another great point. I'm just going to give you, I think, my perspective, and I think this perspective of, let's say, Alistair Robson, who's the founder of LDPath, and he's still pretty active in the business. We work closely together. I think the view is that AI is coming. We're working with AI companies now. There are tests available. One test was just approved by the EU for primary screening. And I think that there's two schools of thought. One school is, well, it's going to be a secondary screen, and will people pay an additional bit for AI? And I think the way the market is going to go is, because you've got so many cases and you've got such a backlog, why not use AI to do the initial screen? And certainly the pathologist will look at the results and sign off on that. It's not a question of the pathologist not being involved. But why wouldn't you do that if you had the ability to do that? And in addition, we're finding that some of the AI capabilities can detect cancers that the human eye may miss. So in some ways, it's like radiology, where you can do a brain scan and find minute brain bleeds that you might miss with a human eye. So that's where AI is going, and we're pushing it hard. And I really want to get in front of the NHS, and private hospitals are getting it. But this is such an opportunity to improve patient care that's where we're going. And I know that's probably way in front of where a lot of people are, but that's where it's going.
Great. Okay. And then now, still stepping through into the other divisions, let's begin with the sort of the genomics side of it, because this is sort of like really the heart of the sort of like precision medicine, sort of personalized medicine move, isn't it? When it comes to all things sort of like diagnosis and also sort of treatment of patients.
I mean, we've got, precision medicine is definitely a focus of ours. We have put it under genomics. There's two bits. There is part of our old ref lab that does do work with pathology, and we're going to have focus on that on the precision medicine side. Let's take a test called EndoPredict, for example, from Myriad, where you can run EndoPredict and find out what's the best chemotherapy treatment for a particular patient. That's very important. You've also got things on the genomic side where you can do NIPT, it's a prenatal pregnancy test, and see if you've got an issue with the embryo. There's so many things that you can do with precision medicine that we have decided to put it into one group, and we're all focusing on what's the best way to grow that business. Genomics also has NGS, next generation sequencing, and we've got Sanger sequencing, which is an older technology, but it's the gold standard for research, and it's a high margin business. We've got a very good customer base. So we've really got a nice footprint in the genomics area, and that's certainly an area we're going to look to grow and possibly even acquire into, if there would be a small business that's got particular tests that we may want to look into and not have, and we would just bolt it onto this group. So we believe there's a lot of potential with our genomics group, and in particular the precision medicine bit.
And the genomics and the precision medicine, if you did an M&A, where would that be? Would that be sort of the US or the UK, or could be anywhere?
It actually could be anywhere, because if you've got a small lab and you've got a capability for a particular asset, you can put that anywhere. So it doesn't really matter. I think we're probably looking more in the UK.
Yeah.
We certainly have some feelers in the US, which would help both sides of our business, but certainly we wouldn't be opposed to something else in Switzerland, for example, if something were to come up.
And then the final sort of like part of your base business is obviously the stability storage, and you've built quite a bit of capacity, I understand, over the last few years, and that's a really good high margin, stable business.
Yeah, the storage side is the high margins, 80% gross margin, recurring revenue business, 3 to 5 year contracts. That's about 56. That's maybe probably 60% of the business right now. We've also got a service and validation group that's going to be expanded, and we're going to offer more types of validation services, not just with our kit, but other kit. One thing we did do this past year, in fact, we just finished this over the past month or two, is we closed the manufacturing piece of this business. That was the original business. It was before storage, but it just got to the point where it was too lumpy of a business. I don't think it just didn't make sense. It was immaterial in terms of revenue. Yeah. And it was becoming an issue on the profitability side. So we've shut that down. So now we're just only a storage services business, which is really what Source is all about. We're not really a product manufacturing company.
And what about just coming then finally sort of full circle? Obviously, you've done very well out of COVID testing, and you've been really one of the sort of the mainstays of the UK to help the country really get through that on the PCR testing side. Do you want to just talk through? I mean, clearly the UK now is not doing as many tests, and in fact hardly any at all, because you don't need it to travel and stuff like that. What's the company's plans in terms of repositioning and repurposing that equipment and resource into the other areas?
Yeah, good question. We talked about this before, but I'll talk about it again right here. Is we certainly are repurposing kit, putting some of it into genomics, offering extraction services, for example, with the LPCR kit. We're repurposing lab space. We are repurposing people. So we've got people that were in the COVID side that are now helping on the CellPath side, or even the genomics side, or even on the marketing side. So we're doing the best we can to sort of integrate the old into the new. But certainly COVID, I mean, it's not core. It's relatively small in terms of revenue. So we're moving on. I mean, we are focusing on the base business as we were doing pre-COVID.
Yeah, and I guess it's the sort of the main. Is it mainly going to be the cellular pathology and the genomics is going to be the main sort of the investment, both organic and
I think you could say that, although the storage people get a little sensitive when we say that, but so yeah, I think you're right that those are the two main areas of growth for the business. But we're doing what we can to really improve our storage position in the market and offering more environmental conditions. So we're still focusing on growing that business as well.
Yeah, and so putting all that together, I know you've had to say a good start to the year. What's just sort of like the outlook for the rest of the year and future news flow?
Well, I think certainly we're still looking at M&A targets. We really want to try to get one over the line if we could by the end of the year, although we'll see. So that's still a focus. We've got 15 million in cash, and we definitely want to do something to help the base business. I think the cellular pathology business, the biggest challenge we have there is just keeping up with the demand. So it's in some ways it's a bit like COVID was when we were, if you recall, we were scaling up the COVID lab as quickly as we could. We're kind of doing the same thing with the CellPath side. So that's one of the things that everybody's focused on within the business. Genomics, precision medicine, we definitely want to focus on that. So I think, look, the year's looking good. We're on plan. So I'm pleased with where I think we're going to end up.
Well, you did a great job at sort of scaling the COVID side. So if you just repeat that and get the blueprint, then the business will be double the size probably in a few years' time.
That's the goal. Well, maybe sooner. We'll see.
Yeah, good. Well, as I say, and with that cash sort of like firepower, that means you, particularly in this market disruption, should give you access to potential opportunities of reasonable scale, actually, because you might find pricing comes down as well.
You could. In fact, we are seeing some of that. I won't get into it, but yeah, you could see that.
Okay, good. Well, thanks again. Thanks very much, Jay, for your time, and congrats on today's excellent trading update, and look forward in touching base again going forward.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Always good to see you. Thanks so much.
All right.